Hi everyone, my name is Angelica, research assistant for the School of Nursing. I have been asked to create a video that's going to help you use the data you're currently collecting to create graphs, charts that you can use to visually understand and interpret your data. So we'll go over a couple of charts like the ones that you see below. We'll also go over some ways that you can combine your data so you can see how those numbers change over maybe months instead of weeks. We'll go over how to create some of those equations, how to create some of the equations that you need for the percentages that you're going to need for these graphs through these scenarios. So we have a couple of scenarios listed right up here, and we have some hypothetical numbers that was given to me by your professor that should mimic some of what you see with the data you're currently collecting. With that information, we have weeks, GLP-1 patients, completed forms, cancellations, and total cases. With the information that we're going to look into, we want number of patients taking GLP-1s per month compared to total number of cases per month to show that percent of patients are taking the medication, the number of cancellations per month compared to the total number of patients taking GLP-1s to show the percent being canceled, and the number of forms completed per month compared to the total number of cases to show percent compliance. So we'll go over all of that. The program I'm going to be using is going to be Excel. It's one of the easiest to format and to collect data in and create forms and charts from. So if you are a novice in Excel, this is going to be pretty easy stuff. I'm going over just the basics. We'll go over all of that. To get started, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start on some blank sheets. That way you guys will be able to see, from scratch how to build these things. So we're just starting on this blank page right here. I've already got our information inserted, and then we have some information that we want to calculate. For this one, we're going to start with the first one, which we want to see the percent of people taking the medication versus people who are not taking the medication. For information like this, my favorite is going to be the 100% bar chart. So that is going to be this chart that looks like this guy down here. This one's really nice when you're trying to see a percentage of something because you can see out of a full 100%, the maroon is going to be who's the percentage in compliance, and then the gray is going to be the percent in non-compliance. If there's 100%, then it's going to be a filled up bar. So this one's really nice for some data like that. So let's start with a simple graph. We're going to start by needing to find the percentages that are taking the medication. So I picked down equation that we're going to use, which means we got to take the value that we're looking for, divided by the total value, and times that by 100 to get the actual percentage. So to get the percentage in Excel and to get Excel to do the work for us, I'm going to insert an equation here. So we're going to hit equals. That's telling Excel that we're creating an equation. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to insert a parentheses to tell it that we're using some cells. So for this, we want the percent taking the medication. So the value that we want is the medication. Now, if I click on this cell, you can see it highlights it in blue and it inserts B4 because it's cell B4 into this equation. Now we want to divide, and we're going to divide that by the total number of cases. So that is going to end our equation. We'll throw that parentheses in there. Now I'm going to skip the step of timesing by 100 because I can also get Excel to do that for me as well. So we're going to hit enter, and we can see we have a percentage here. We have a decimal here, and we want it to be a percentage. So instead of timesing it by 100 and then creating some extra numbers in here that's going to confuse Excel when it tries to build graphs off of these, we're going to just tell it that I want to see it as a percentage. That way it keeps that decimal itself and it calculates things off of the decimal when we need it to. So we're going to go up here to the formatting area, and we're going to go up to this number section, and we're going to find that percent. And by clicking on that, it's going to change that decimal into what it would be if we times it by 100 to create a percent. Now, instead of retyping a equation for every single cell, I'm going to just click on this one, hover until I get that cross arrows in the corner. I'm going to click, and we're going to drag this box down. What that does is that copies down that equation all the way down that column, and it does that equation in respect of its own row. So if you can see here, we went B5 to E5. We went B7 to E7. So these are its relative rows. So it's doing the math for that specific row in that equation. So that is the percentage that we have. Now, for not taking meds, we just want what 100 is minus what this is. So that's another equation. We'll just hit equals, parentheses. I'm going to put the number 1, and I'm putting the number 1 because if I put 100, it's going to minus a decimal from that 100. Because remember I said by putting it in percentage format, it still sees this as a decimal. So we're going to put a 1 because that represents 100 in decimal form minus this cell, close that parentheses, hit enter, and now it did that formatting for us into the percentage, and it gave us the percent that's not taking the meds in this week. So we'll go ahead and let's format that guy all the way down. Once we format that guy all the way down, we have the percentages of people not taking it for every week. And now we can build that graph. So we're going to select the weeks. That's going to be the main information. We're going to hit control. And while holding down control, I'm also going to highlight these two columns that we just created. That's going to tell the Excel what information we want to build in our graph. So once we got those guys highlighted, we're going to go to insert. I like to go to recommended charts, but you can just go, to charts itself, and it's going to give you these recommended. And then you can also go to all charts, and it's going to give you a bunch of different options, a bunch of different designs and ways that it'll interpret that data. So you can see in a column form, it's interpreting three forms of data across 12 weeks. This guy is turning it into series. We can have line graphs that'll show you different things, pie graphs. In the recommended charts tab, it's going to give you a lot of different options. And down here is where you can find usually the chart you're looking for. And then in all charts, the one I'm talking about is a bar chart. And it's going to be, there's stacked bar chart and then the 100% stacked bar chart. That one's going to be the one that's going to show you out of 100% what everything is. So we'll go ahead, we'll pick that guy. Now we have our chart set up. We can actually grab and move this guy wherever we want. So let's pull him over to the side. And you can see it's built 0 to 100%, 1 to 12 weeks. The blue is the people taking the medication. The orange is the people not taking the medication. So this is just a way you can see reflective of each other out of 100%. Are we getting, a quarter of people, more than half, more than that, just one way of seeing that information. You can also, with that same information, so we can make multiple graphs on one sheet. So we can highlight that information again. We can go and insert. I just go to recommended, and we can do things. Actually, I was going to show you the line graph, but this probably is not going to be the best example of a line graph. But we can see even just a bar graph with this guy. Oops, grabbed the wrong thing. With this guy, you can see even just compared the blue bar compared to the orange bar, you can see them side by side. So that's going to be another option you have of building charts. With these guys, you have formatting too you can handle. So you can scoot over a little bit. And when I do, I have some room over here. You can see there's some buttons here on the side. The plus button is going to have different elements that you can add or take away from your chart. So if you need access titles, you can add that in there and you can title each one. If you need more data labels, so you need it labeled on top of your graph. If you need the information on your table, error bars aren't a big thing that I really use. Then there's grid lines if you need grid lines on there, and then the legend, which is going to be explaining all of that information on what is what. There's chart styles, so you can mess with the different styles and formatting down here. And then filtering, you can select what information you want to see. If you uncheck these and hit apply, it's going to take out that information. So you can always say, I don't want to see the first week. We can uncheck that, we can apply, and it starts at week 2. And then you can always recheck it, hit apply, and it'll bring it back in there. Also, sizing your chart matters. It's going to skew things if you make it too small. So you can see it cuts them off. So just keep that in mind when you're resizing these. It can change how that data looks. You can see it cut out that 12, but now that 12 is back in there. That's all just a size. You can also format your charts up here at the top. There's formatting for styles. There's formatting for colors. You can switch your information or change your data. You can go to this format side and you can do individual, like real specific things. You can click on a specific part of your chart and you can do, color changes for that particular part or different things like that. Another cool thing is you can go over on this corner and into the like options area, and here you can have a bunch of chart options as well. So we can hit the axis and we can go over here and there's axis options, and you can change how much of everything you're seeing. If you don't need to see 0 to 100, maybe you want to see 0 to 50%. If you wanted to see less weeks, you can play around in this formatting section as well. So that's going to be that first scenario with some bar chart and 100% stack bar chart to show you some percentages options. We can go over, I like to do separate sheets for every scenario just to kind of keep things in like sectioned off areas. So now we'll go into that sheet 2. On sheet 2, we're going to work on our next scenario, which is going to be percent of cancellations compared to the total number of patients. And this will show the percent that's being canceled. So on this one, I went ahead and was working with the dual access chart. So that is going to be one we'll go through next. So we'll have to do our math again to do the percent of cancellations. So for this one, we'll hit that equals parentheses. And we're going to do with this one, since we want cancellations with GLP, we want that as our value. We'll divide that by our GLP1 because that's our total. Close that. And then there's our decimal. We want it as a percent. And we'll copy that all the way down. And now we see what percent actually canceled of the GLP1. And now what we'll do is we want our weeks, we want our GLP1s, and we want our percentage. And I want to say our total cases. So with the 4, this is going to make that dual access. So we can go insert, recommended, and you can see this is the first chart that it offers. Again, you can do other ones, but this one's going to tell us all that information at once. We'll hit OK. And now it looks a little skewed, right? It looks like we have a whole bunch, but we can always format this to look a little bit better. Because if you look at one axis, it's going 0 to only 6%, versus this axis is going 0 to 90 patients. And we're going 1 to 12 weeks. So we're going to click on this axis. We're going to go to our options, our axis options, and we're going to make our maximum instead of 0.06, which is 6%. We're going to go, let's do it all the way up to 100%. And then that way we can really see. So 100 in this, since it's decimals, is just going to be a 1. We'll hit enter, and you can see that changed it to 100%. And now you can see, look at how low our percentage actually is of cancellations. And it looks a little more relative. We see our blue is our GLP-1s, our orange is our total cases. Even if you wanted to just take this guy and your percentages, so control highlight, then we can just make a line graph alone. So there's a line graph right there as our first recommended chart. And then there, if that's going to be the easier way to interpret the data, then you just have the line graph. And again, you can mess with the axis to make it so it doesn't look like it's taking up all of that, because in reality, it's very low percentages. So that's going to be that percent of cancellations that we have. On our third scenario, we're going to talk about the number of forms completed versus the number of total cases, so we can show the compliance. So we want percentages again. So the percent compliant, let's go ahead and enter that equation. So percent compliant, it's going to be that value of completed forms divided by your total number of cases. So this is all of the cases. Enter. We get our decimal, our percentage, 85% on week 1. And let's go through for all 12 weeks. And for the non-compliant, it's going to be just like that original one that we did where we wanted the opposite, so that way we can get that 100 stack bar chart. So we can do that. So the percent not compliant, we had, let's do another equation, and it's going to be 1 minus this guy. And then let's go ahead and we'll do our percentage all the way down. So you can see for 100% compliance, 0% non-compliant. Easy way to just kind of tell it's doing the math for us. And again, just for that stack bar chart, that's the one I like for information like this. Highlight, insert, and then this is the one that I like. Again, formatting, if you formatted it and switched the axes, you could see like it's stacked this way instead of sideways. Some of that is preference, just depending what you're wanting to see. So there's that stack bar chart. Now, we were also wanting to talk about combining information. So right here, I have some combinations of weeks. In reality, you'd probably do week 1 through 4, 8 through 12, or 8 through 12. And that would be like a month to month comparison. But just for case that we only have 12 weeks and I wanted more than just 3 points, I did by a 3-week comparison. And we can always we'll show you how we can change all of that as well. To combine weeks, we're still wanting to do some equations to do some math for us. So let's say, for example, in our weeks, we wanted to see how many GLP-1s we had from week 1 through 3. We're going to do another equation. This time I'm going to write the word sum, and that's going to tell Excel that we're doing an equation that's going to sum up the numbers in a range. We're going to hit that parentheses, and I'm going to choose weeks 1, 2, and 3. We can close that parentheses and hit enter. That's going to be that sum. You can see it's getting an error right here. This error is just telling you that the Excel thinks that you're not using all of the information you need to. And that's just because we didn't use everything that was in the column or in the graph. We just used a piece, but that's okay because that's what we want. So if you want to get rid of this, you can just click it and hit ignore. It'll get rid of that whole thing for you. Okay, so the next step is going to be calculating for the rest of the weeks. Now on this one, of course, we can do our equals, sum, and then we can choose our cells. So for this one, we want week 4 through 6. Close that parentheses, and then there's our next total. Now something so that way I can show you how you can really change around what data you're using is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy down that equation. Now this is an equation that I copied down, but I don't want to use it exactly how it is right there, only because when you copy it down, Excel's trying to follow a pattern. So if you notice, we can take a look at this one. It's B7 to B9, B7 to B9, and then we go to the one that we copied down. This was B8 to B10. So that's literally just one row down instead of going the next 3 and then starting at 10. So easy fix that we can do is we can double click in that cell. It's telling us what cells it's using, and we can actually hover. You can hover your crosshairs and see how it changes. This cross box isn't going to do anything other than select one specific key. But if you hover it to get the one with the arrows, we can actually click and drag and move this guy around, and it's going to calculate whatever 3 boxes we want. So we want week 7 through 9. So we'll go ahead. We're going to land it right there. That changes it from B10 to B12. We're going to hit enter, and then that's going to be the actual total for those weeks. And then if I want to do the same thing, copy that down, and then where you can see it's doing B11, and we want it to actually start at B13. And then we'll hit enter, and then there's going to be all of our totals for those weeks. Now we can go ahead and we can highlight this, go into our insert charts. So you can go with a bar graph if that's what you're comfortable with. It's going to show you, your totals through 3 bars through the 4 intervals of weeks. You can see a lot more data depending on what you're looking for. You can see this is only going up to 80, but of course we can always change that up to like, let's say 100. And then it'll kind of change it up a little bit on how it looks. If you wanted to, we can do line graph instead, which I personally think a line graph might work a little bit better for this scenario. You can even choose graphs that have points on them. That'll have like a marker, so it'll tell you where that number is landing, or it has like a little dot for exactly where that point is. And then again, you can go and you can go into your access options. You can go into your filter options, your formatting options, and just tell it everything that you want. Data labels, so that way you can really see your totals. So that's going to be that breakdown on how to combine some months. It is a little bit of math, but nothing too difficult. A lot of it Excel handles. Let's say you had some more data. You've collected a couple of more weeks, and instead of going by the 3-week sections, you wanted to add instead doing 4. So for example, maybe instead we wanted to do like we could do first quarter, we can do second quarter, third, and fourth. Let's just say in layman's terms. And so let's pretend, I guess if we only are doing it by 4 weeks, we wouldn't have a fourth one. But let's pretend. And so what we can do is change up our information a little bit. Double click on this guy. And instead of doing just 3 weeks, we can extend it up to 4. Hit enter. We can grab this guy. And the 4th week is included in the last one. So let's move it down only to 5, 6, 7. Let's include a 4th week. Enter. And then on this guy, this is going to be our last one. Again, we'll move it down because 7 and 8 are already included. We got 9, 10, and 11. Let's include 12. And then now you can see these points have changed. And because I was messing with points that are already on a graph, our graph points changed as well. But I mean, that would just take, if you didn't want to mess with graphs you already have created, you would just need to, copy a column over, and you can use the new column that you copied to redo your equations. I think that's going to be about it for all of the basics, combining dates, combining weeks, percentages, building some of these graphs. I hope it was able to help you to be able to build your own graphs with your own data. If you have any questions, feel free, reach out to me. Your professor has my contact information. I'm happy to do some one-on-ones to go over the information in more detail, or maybe go over anything I might have missed. Again, just feel free to reach out. I look forward to hearing from any one of you, and I hope you guys have a great day and that your graphs will come out easy, no issues, and looking beautiful. Have a good one, guys. Thank you so much.